I think my talk is going to be a little bit different as to what you've experienced today. We have quite a number of professionals in different fields with us today, and I'm very fortunate myself to be in the presence of them, so thank you very much. I also want to say that I think all of the research that has been discussed is quite interesting and really leading into my talk, which is going to be a very informative talk, I think, to most of you, and also an informational talk to some of the actual doctors and professors here, because understanding detox and gut health hasn't been quite a topic of discussion for many people. I think when we talk about gut health and colon and using those any type of words and terms in the gastroenterology field, then people are kind of like an oyster and everybody keeps quiet. So this is not the day to keep quiet. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding factors and a lot of I would say pathways that one needs to understand in order to ensure a patient's health. Without it, I think you can really do quite a bit of damage if you're doing detoxification and chemotherapy, any alternative therapy. It all comes down to then the health of the gut in order to ensure these treatments being successful. Okay. So I will touch on a couple of key points, which I think exactly, and a lot of you have to understand that a lot of the people here today are people from all over, this region, Cape Town. I think there's quite a misunderstanding with what is toxicity, what is classified as the term toxin, and I want to take this opportunity to talk in a very layman's terms in order to ensure that people understand what we're referring to when we're saying toxins and toxic cells and things that you might just think it's some kind of pesticide in your bloodstream. Okay? So I want to clarify that. Then I want to talk about the phases of detox and the importance of the liver, because we can alternate a cellular structure, we can eliminate cells, we can open cells, we can. On cellular level, we can do quite a lot of work these days, and I think this is also from what you've gathered here. But then what? If we do all these things with these cells, and then what happens after that? What is the next phase of the protocol? And that's really where the liver becomes one of the most interesting topics, and one of my really one of the focal points in my research and in my work. And then also, obviously, the gut, the processes of detox, and then how does your gut biome actually deal with all of these cells that you are breaking down and killing and revitalizing? I mean, what happens to them and the elimination process? Obviously, and then last but not least, what is our importance of maintenance? It's all good to do a lot of these therapies and you get good results, and then after that what happens again? What is the level of maintenance that we need to uphold? What is the level of treatments? What type of treatments do you need to uphold for your protocol? And I think these are quite important points that one needs to remember. So I think this picture is kind of familiar to all of you. Okay? The apple a day keeps the doctor away. I think it's something that I grew up with, and it's sort of one of those sayings that nobody forgets because everybody all over the globe is familiar with it. That does not refer to a dentist. So I think if you understand just liver health and apopectin, and we can have a lot of discussions about that. Actually, it's there's maybe they didn't think about it at the time, maybe they did, maybe it's my light bulb that went on. But actually, apples possess quite a functional compound that helps the liver. So I think it keeps the doctor away because your liver is actually in good health. Okay. So I think this is a question, and I think one of these pictures are quite important to understand is that, we're not here today to treat and to cure anything. We're here today to prevent, and we should all be, if you are in a position where you've had cancer or that you've been exposed to somebody with cancer, this is a good day to understand the different therapies that is out there that you wouldn't otherwise have known about. And I think it's, from a detoxing point of view, we also just want to prevent going into any particular detox if we don't have to. But that really comes down to the individual. People ask me when they come to my practice, I see between, I would say, 40 to 50 patients in a week. And they come mainly, I would say 70% of them come mainly for gut health. That's really my field of understanding. And then they're also, coming because they've just heard that they have to do something, they don't know quite yet what, but they just want to make sure that they are the most optimal person that they can be. So this question comes up a lot to ask me, well, if we are this amazing creature that's been designed by whichever force you believe in, aren't we supposed to detox ourselves? Isn't the body, with all its intelligence, made to detoxify itself? Well, I'm going to come back to that question because I think many people ask this question. And, if I have somebody and I tell them to drink this green juice because I tell them it's going to detox them, I mean, people kind of look at you, yeah, but what if, I don't know quite how that works because the body kind of have to absorb the nutrients and then the nutrients have to go somewhere and then somehow all of the toxins needs to come. So, it's clear that most people don't understand detoxing and they don't understand how it works. So let's shine the light on that a little bit. So we're going back to what is an actual toxin. Toxin is a substance that are harmful to the human body. That is a toxin. So that's pretty much everything. What you breathe, what you eat, what you drink, what you think, all of it could be toxic. So when we use the word toxin, we just need to be clear on what exactly are we talking about, what exactly are we detoxing the body of, and make sure that the individual or the patient involved also know, what process are you busy with. The word detox just kind of happened to be the biggest word in health these days. So stress is one of the biggest toxins in the world. And I think it can't be stressed enough. I think we can't, if we can yell it out to the world and everybody can hear it at the same time, then I would definitely be keen in standing in that row. Stress can alter your brain chemistry, stress can alter your molecular structure, stress can cause cellular damage. And, you can look at these lasers, you can look at infrared therapy, you can look at all of this that's here today, which is incredible therapy. But you can walk out of here and you can go back to your life and you can go back to your workplace or your relationship that is toxic and stressful, and what did we achieve today? What did we learn? So I want to say that in this year, in the last 3 years, I've found that most of the patients that come to see me are continuously in fight-flight mode. It is as if they just cannot relax. The word relaxation is nothing near, I think, got the worth of meaning that's supposed to be given to them. They all think that relaxation is going to the spa and getting some kind of hot stone massage and then, yep, that was my hour of relaxation and now I'm going to go back to my workplace. And, that is definitely not what I mean with relaxation, but I just want you to know that I'll touch a little bit on stress again from experience with my patients, but also just so you know, this is kind of something on a more conscious level that you need to take on board. So what eventually happens, whether there's stress or whether there's pesticides or whether there's heavy metals, like we said, it could be a toxin, could be anything. But what happens? Toxins go to cellular damage. Cellular damage goes to unhealthy internal environment, which in turn means an unhealthy gut. An unhealthy internal environment could lead to acidosis, which leads to inflammation and then to illness. So eventually, in between here is the process of detoxing. So before we get to illness, that's really the focal point of where we want to go and say, okay, I can't change my life, can't change my work, but maybe in the middle somewhere I can find time for myself to look after my liver, or look after my pancreas, or my spleen, or just the general body, in a healthy state. So these are a couple of the, I would say, illnesses, issues. I don't want to use even the word illness, but some of the issues that I've been dealing with in my practice that would definitely require some detoxification, and I've seen amazing reversal of these illnesses using a gut health protocol, using a liver protocol, using things like the hypothermia, intravenous IVs, colon elimination, and basically nutrition. So those are things I can help with, and then obviously the biggest part where the patient needs to help themselves is to lower stress. So, we don't really want to be in any one of these categories. Many of these illnesses have been told to people that, sorry, there's nothing we can do for you. The medical industry is amazing when we need it. It is available to us. I have absolutely nothing against it. It's a conventional way of treatment because they are the people to go to. Unfortunately, some of these ailments aren't quite in their span, and it's not in their area of interest. So they're amazing with surgery, they're amazing with cellular oncology. They are definitely experts in their field. But I do think when it comes down to things like SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, things like Candida, things like the word irritable bowel syndrome, I don't even want to use, because that is just a term that has been overused, and it is not something that can't be reversed. Lyme's disease, when it comes down to these type of ailments, I think that there's quite a lot of hopeless people that think that there's nothing that can work for them and nothing that they can do to help themselves. So most of the times, there's been an amazing reversal of these ailments, and definitely a better quality of life by just looking after the gut health and the liver health. So for some of you who don't know, I think this has been kind of in the last 5 years stressed enough as to what is toxins. Okay, so toxins, EMFs, there's definitely no doubt that I don't like technology. I love technology, I'm all for it, but there is just obviously exponential growth in exposure. There's definitely a lot of literature out there that will inform you on the use of your cell phone, the use of your internet, and etc., etc. Then obviously the most common ones, mercury, that has been passing on from generations to generations. It's the oldest way in the book where dentists used to make fix your fillings. And then obviously things in our water when we're flying for business, pleasure, going on holiday. I mean, this is just things that your body needs to take. And these are exposures that you just can't get away from. So I think it's just very important to understand then, if you are being exposed to these things, and if you can't help yourself being exposed to these things, you have to detox. I mean, there's just no doubt about that. I mean, you can't just tell this intelligent being of a body to say, well, you take that, and then you take more, and then you take some more, and then you just add a little bit more, and then expect it to thrive when you're 75 years old. It is just impossible. There's it over and over in Afrikaans. We have this saying, and I directly translate that to English, is that you get to the age where it's pills and glasses. And it's just kind of one of those ailments that you just get when you're old. Now, I don't really quite believe in that, but that's not new generation. So, coming back to our question, is the body not able to help itself with detoxification? It absolutely is. I think most of you can understand, and I was really fascinated by pregnancy, not that I'm becoming a mother or anything. I just think that, the ability that our bodies have to do certain things, the biochemical processes that happens in our body while you're sleeping, the amazing brain chemistry that we have, the fact that when you just meet somebody new and you've got butterflies in your stomach, how is that even possible in this human body? You know, there's our emotional overlap with physical body. This is mental, emotional, physical. It's such a difficult web to understand, and that's why we're all putting our heads together from all parts of the world to understand the body. But in essence, what it's about is to say, how does this work? So yes, of course, this being has the most amazing ability to detox itself, but can it be influenced by the factors of, detoxification? Absolutely. You have to take into account that people have social demands, people have families, they've got kids, they've got excuses from A to Z about why they just can't right now. Now, right now is not a good time, but I can start juicing and do my vegetables. Give it, I just need to get my kid off to school, and then no problem, I can do the program. So there's always just something coming up, and I think that is just one of those points that we need to understand. There's 3 phases of detoxification. Obviously, one being the liver. I think most of you can agree. The liver is the first point of entry, wherever it comes into your lungs, through your skin, through your hair. Obviously, the liver is the point where everything congregates, and from there filters the blood. The process of you all having biology in school, I think you can relate. Obviously, then, how does it exit the body? Well, there's a phase 1 detoxification, where the toxin basically comes in, it gets neutralized by an enzyme. The enzyme then basically push it into phase 2 for elimination. So should that be the optimal body when we are exposed to a pesticide? Obviously, it comes into the body, you breathe it in, and from there it gets to phase 1 of the liver, going into phase 2, exit through the bile, and out through the intestines. That's now in a very perfect human body. So phase 1, like we said, we've got something called our cytochromes. Cytochromes is phase 1, where we neutralize the toxin, or we try to neutralize the toxin. Then we've got, the makeup of that liver is now where things like milk thistle, vitamin C, glutathione, so these type of supplements that people know about is what you can buy in the shops these days. It all helps you with phase 1, how to neutralize toxins coming into your body. From there, phase 2, then obviously we've got 2, and in my opinion 3 elimination pathways. One being your lymphatic system, one being your kidneys and your bladder and out through the urine, and one through the gallbladder and into the large intestine. So from phase 1 into phase 2, now we need a little bit more from the liver in order to exit the toxin. So unless you have the optimal amount of cytochromes in your liver, that would mean from there into phase 2, no problem. From phase 2 into elimination, no problem. Should you have a problem in the liver for, I would say, that couldn't neutralize the toxin, things like heavy metals, of course they can't go past phase 2. So now you have to help the body with phase 2. You have to give it a little bit extra more and help it to detox a little better. I do think, sorry if I'm over the time, I must just stop. I do have a tendency to do that. Okay, then phase 3, which is more my, my interest, is then obviously the excretion of the waste, or the elimination of the waste. So, for example, the good example is Leo. When we've had the lasers the first time, he's done a very intense program with lasers, which happened to breaking down a lot of this on cellular level, a lot of the cells, but which concluded to Alzheimer. It shut up, I think Dr. Fred was involved, it shut the inflammation in his body up to around, 40, around 40, do you remember? 160. 160. So on a blood test level, you need to be below 5. Over 15, they want to admit you to hospital. So then you've got such chronic inflammation in that point. So after the treatment, and then everybody was wondering, what now? What now? And I said to my mom, I said, you just need to do a colony. All these cells that you've been breaking down and all this amazing therapy that you've done is now gone where? Through the elimination pathway. And where does that go? Well, to the colon. So eliminating that, within 3 days he was back to 15, and then again back to normal state. So all of us I think just to bear that in mind is that a lot of people struggle with the colon, obviously. It's the most sensitive organ we have. It's also the organ that doesn't fit with your brain. You can't control it. You can't tell yourself to breathe. You can't tell yourself to go to the bathroom. You have to rely on your enteric nervous system, which has no voice, and it just operates. You don't just wake up in the morning and go to the loo as if it's nothing. It's a nervous system. It's just autonomous. So, in the shorter version, if you need something, to take from that process, toxins enter the body, it goes to the liver, and it exits the body. We need to help exit it. Most people that are in this room, most people that come to see me have no gut function whatsoever. Many women that have had children, many women that are struggling with candida, thrush, all kinds of bacterial overgrowth have no gut function. So in order for them to have an optimal chance of actually getting any type of therapy to work for them would be an absolute no. I won't be able to be on board with that unless they are doing enemas or colon hydrotherapy or some kind of elimination of the pathways. When we have our step 1, remember we've got three areas. Step 1 would be our phase 1 detox. These are some of the supplementary ingredients that will help you through phase 1. These are selenium, sulfur, your glutamine, glutathione, magnesium, B12. Those are all the necessary needed vitamins in order to help you with stage 2. And if I look at all my patients, I don't know why they're all deficient in all of that. So it comes back to living, eating, breathing. Being deficient in your nutrients stops functionality of the body. So from a nutritional point of view, your diet is the most important. Elimination of toxins, basically 2 ways, which is still out of your large intestine, but the liver's pathway into your intestines is through the gallbladder. So gallbladder have a way of excreting the toxicity through the bile. The bile goes into the small intestine, from small intestine back into your colon or large intestine, and then obviously out supposed to go. When you aren't going to the bathroom, so what happens to the body? Toxic overload. So now the body knows, oh, well, I actually can't use that pathway, so, well, she's also not doing exercise, so where is it supposed to go now? It's just sitting in your body. It's not going anywhere. You can't breathe them out. So it's a congregation of toxicity in your body. This last report I've seen was from Morton Partners, is our radiology, about a scan that's been done on somebody's large intestine, and what they said was over-intoxication of fecal overload, because of fecal overload. And I thought, well, that's a new term of intoxication. So it just means basically you're recycling toxicity, and if you go to my next slide, and you'll all get a copy, but I mean, doesn't this kind of trigger you to say, well, how is the gut connected? Well, it's connected to everything. It's connected to everything. It's connected to your liver, it's connected to your gallbladder, it's connected to your spleen. This is a portal system, this is a blood system, this is all a capillary system basically that will transport in and out. So if you have fecal overloading in your large intestine, what's happening to your body is that you are becoming overtoxic. So the last couple of slides that I want to touch on is the role of the gastrointestinal tract. I think most of you have heard about things like leaky gut, which is currently not being recognized by the medical industry. They refuse to acknowledge that this is a problem for most people. This problem means that leaky gut syndrome is not only the fact that you are getting raw materials and compounds, if you want to call it, into your bloodstream, but it also means that there is a clear disadvantage of your assimilation patterns, which means you are not actually absorbing anything. So one can eat very healthily, but if you have your small intestine it's got all these little fingers, and these fingers are, the the receptors of taking all these goodness of the foods that you are eating. But for somebody, for example, that are intolerant to wheat or gluten, you break down these little fingers and then they become knuckles. And when they've become knuckles, well, now you can't absorb anything. Very, very small amounts. So now your iron deficient or anemia becomes part of that problem. Vitamin B deficiency, vitamin C deficiency. Everything that you put in your mouth has got a one-way track all the way through. Okay, there's no other point of entry. If you put a needle in your arm, it's a different story. If you eat something that is rich in vitamin C, you think that that vitamin C is now being absorbed into your body. But now we go back to our liver health to say, well, we need magnesium and iron and B12 and all of these things that are supposed to be helping you with your liver detoxification, but if you can't absorb them, what happens? You have a bad liver. If you have a bad liver, you have bad elimination. Which leads back to toxicity, which leads to why all of you are here. What then? Illness. So, one of the major, I think, reasons is the colonics. I think there's quite a bit of people interested in knowing about colonic and colon hydrotherapy. Some of you are quite familiar with it. I actually started it as a treatment because, well, I wasn't actually quite sure what to do with all my knowledge at the time when I graduated, and I wasn't sure exactly what route I want to go into. Colon hydrotherapy kind of found me, and I feel that it's something that changed my own life. But I also see how there's a lot of literature against it, and that's you know, it's all relative. We all have an opinion and entitled to it. But I think I'm at the moment definitely one of the busiest practitioners around in our area, and I can see the actual results from the patients that I'm treating. So it is one of the most important topics to discuss, and I think the word speaks for itself, but there is no way that in this world that we're living in, and most people, let's say the people's world that we're living in, that you can eliminate the amount of toxicity from stool in your body any other way. It's just a natural treatment that you use with water in order to flush out toxicity, and if you see the reversal rate, my practice is generally like my lab. So every single hour when I have a patient coming to see me for a consult or coming in for a treatment, it just speaks for itself. And you know, to see the improvement of health by just eliminating just the one area of the body in a very natural way. I'm still trying to understand how something that simple can actually yield such big results. The last slide I want to get to is, and you're welcome to ask me more questions in a moment. The last slide is quite important for me, and the reason why I put it up there is because I work with patients that do that. You know, we are entitled to making mistakes. Everybody does. You know, we go through phases in our workplace where it becomes super hectic. I myself work between, I don't know, anymore, 14 hours a day. But I take really good care of my body, my mind, my stress levels. Doesn't matter how many hours I work because I actually really like what I do. So when I am at my practice and when I am busy with a patient, actually sometimes I lose completely track of time before I know it's 6 o'clock and oh geez, you know, so well, I just have to touch base with myself again. So, but if we continue to make the same mistakes as things that somebody tells you, whether it's me or anybody else that you see, well, that classifies me as a not so intelligent person. I thank you very much for your time. I just hope that, you know, we think half an hour is a long time, but it's not. I can probably speak 3 hours. I just want you to understand that from the only present you own yourself is look after what you have. You know, once it's gone and once it got a kink in the cycle, it's very hard to come back to being in optimal state. And it's only you, essentially, putting whatever in your mouth that could change that. You know, that's where it starts. When you open your mouth, when you're putting something in there, You know, whether it's medication, whether it's a supplement, whether it's food, just remember that it's one way out, one way in, and the cycle for detoxification all happens here. And if you're not healthy, then your end result will be what most of these doctors are trying to help other patients with, your illness. Thank you.
Any questions for Dr. Catherine?
Genetic testing and either glutathione or deletion. So my body doesn't produce glutathione. So I do the coffee element because the theory is, and I don't know what the research behind it is, the theory is that the coffee element increases the glutathione production in the body, so that it helps with elimination. But then there's also contradictory evidence that too much glutathione and glutamine is not good for cancer. So, there's just information overload when you start doing research about the gut and the detox.
Absolutely. First of all, the coffee enemas is very important to understand which type of coffee. I think there's been quite a misunderstanding with the actual, what that coffee entails. People are, now when they just read things like that, because they're so desperate, they'll just go and buy coffee anywhere that is organic, because it's organic, it's fine. There's medical grade coffee that we use. The reason why we use that coffee, and I'll touch on your glutathione. If you think about your portal system, your ventricle system, you have to understand that getting coffee into your gut lining is, it's stimulating the liver to actually excrete more toxicity, but it's only really possible if your lining is optimal enough to absorb that. You can do coffee enemas till you are blue in the face, but you won't achieve what you're trying to achieve with your glutathione production. Genetic testing, have you done any blood-related tests apart from the genetic testing with regards to your glutathione? So, with the genetic testing, there's many companies that are offering these type of services, and, it's almost impossible to think that your body doesn't produce on cellular level that amount of glutathione that you need, because in fact your body can survive on quite a small amount. The liver health, remember, glutathione doesn't come from your liver. Glutathione is a substance that are on, yes, exactly, but it's also in every single blood cell. So we don't have, it's not something they congregate in the liver to help you. So you can, instead of doing it the coffee enema way, unless you're sure that your bowel is ready for that uptake, you could actually just use a glutathione intravenously to help your liver, first of all. Because if your liver is then healthy, your elimination will be better.
But the connection between too much glutathione and glutamine, and cancer, and this affects now, I think in a normal person detoxing, a normal person and detoxing a person with cancer is slightly different.
Not really. I think the detoxification process, and if you say glutathione and glutamine, the body, whether it's a cancer patient or a normal patient, whatever the body do not need, it will excrete. Whether the excretion is an open pathway or not, the body will only take what it needs. It can't conflict the two. Am I right, Gerard? Yeah. So you can give a cancer patient glutathione injections, but it will only help the patient as much as the body wants it. So you can never take too much of anything.
But I mean, will the cancer cells then not grab that and use that to fuel this? Because this is what's confusing me about, the whole glutathione and glutamine. That's why I stay away from any supplements like that.
Well, I'll call on Dr. Gerard for that.
No, the target for cancer is glucose only. And this is very important what you said. Why? Because when patient gives you kind of diet, specific diet for cancer, remember, never substitute the sugar by other sugar, because you change the information of your body, and the insulin is playing a very important role. So when you take the aspartame or something like that, you send the wrong information to your body, and then the body that produces insulin and will change all this insulin. This plays a very important role, and then you can go to the opposite side. So it's better not to take glucose at all, but we do not replace by but that's just the energy of cancer cells, and then target glucose.
So when you read, what do you find that glutamine is toxic to those cancers?
I was found those papers actually found them on packaging, and I think I understand that they see that they can feel, because the body can use them as a food, the cancer cells can use them as a food for glutamine, and too much glutamine can actually addict. I suppose it also depends on the dose, the same as vitamin C can addict the cancer cell if it's at a too low dose. That's what I understand. I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong. It needs to be a really high dose to use to cause the oxidative stress. So that's why I generally, stay away, because I probably don't understand it.
It's the same, the glutamine. So I think the answer for that, too much antioxidant, it can, because one of the way we kill the cancer is the reflux. And if you give too much of antioxidant, it's possible that give them some protection. But I'm talking about giving too much, not the normal dose.
Okay, any other questions for Dr. Catherine?
So we want to add that in our body we have two brains, one here and one here.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
Thank you very much.